Well, for more on this, Omer Ozkizilcik joins me now from Ankara. He is a security analyst and non-residential fellow at the Atlantic Council. Thank you for joining us. So the latest fighting is between the Syrian army and the terror group, the SDF, which we've been hearing about. But Syria is also facing other threats at the moment. What are its biggest challenges?
I mean, the biggest challenge for the Syrian government since taking power is basically to preserve Syria's territorial integrity. And the threats are manifold. I mean, the biggest threat, obviously, is in the south from Israel. The Israeli army has occupied additional territories since the fall of the Assad regime, and Israel has been bombing Syrian army positions since. And in Syria, Israel has encouraged and empowered forces who want to fragment Syria when it comes to the Druze leader, Sheikh Hikmat al-Hajari, who seeks independence from the Syrian state, or when it comes to the coastal areas where some former regime remnants are trying to establish a relationship with Israel, or when it comes to the northeast where the SDF is trying to preserve its so-called autonomous administration of north and east Syria. And these threats to fragment Syria and to hinder its territorial integrity is the biggest challenge that the Syrian government is facing. And we see that the Syrian government has tried actually the approach of a negotiated settlement with the Druze, with the regime remnants, and as well with the SDF. The biggest efforts were towards the SDF, but unfortunately the March 10 agreement that was initially signed under American mediation was not implemented despite the deadline ending on New Year.
Yeah, as you mentioned there, that deadline has come and gone. How big a threat is this group then, the SDF, going forward?
When it comes to the SDF, the biggest the thing that we have to keep in mind is demographics. The SDF controls almost a third of Syrian territory, almost all of its oil reserves, and it controls the Tishrin and Tabqa dam, who generated 90% of Syria's electricity in the pre-war period. And as you know, in the daily lives of Syrians, electricity consumption is one of the biggest problems for civilians. But these areas that the SDF controls and have these vast resources are not Kurdish areas. They are Arab territories, Arab lands. So the SDF controls a population that is approximately 80% Arab. And most territories where these resources are also Arab lands. And all of the oil resources and oil fields in eastern Syria are in areas inhabited by the Arab population. So the Kurdish populated areas are quite in the north, next to the Turkish border. And the SDF wants to keep control over these territories, wants to become an army within an army, does not want to hand over territorial control, wants to have a territorial limitation. And if this continues, this will always be a huge threat to Syria, because Syria needs these economic sources to rebuild its country. I mean, Syria, it's estimated that it needs 200 to 350 billion US dollars to just rebuild what was destroyed in the war period. And oil revenues could make up to 15 billion US dollars per year. This is important money that the Syrian people need, and that's as of now deprived from them, stolen from them, and being sold and being produced on a very low level. So the SDF is actually depriving the Syrian people from much needed resources.
And Omer, you mentioned there the rebuilding, because in the background of all of this is the context of 14 years of civil war, which has destroyed Syria. Now, there has been a lot of hope in the last year under the new leader, Al-Shaqif, but is that coming to an end at the moment?
No, actually, the situation is quite the contrary. I mean, let's be frank. The Syrian society and the Syrian population at large are being withheld by Ahmed al-Shara. When it comes to the regime remnants, the Syrian society is actually demanding a much tougher policy. When it comes to northeastern Syria, that's currently controlled by the SDF, the Syrian society wants war. They believe that war is the ultimate solution. We have seen several demonstrations in which civilians called the Syrian army to intervene militarily. And this is not without a reason, because in eastern Syria, northeastern Syria, the SDF has a one-party occupation totalitarian system established there. So it's an occupational forces, and the people want their freedom. They say, we got rid of Assad, we want to get rid of the SDF as well. The people in western Syria are free, but people in eastern Syria, northeastern Syria are not. So they want their freedom, and they're encouraging the Sharia government to intervene militarily. So what's happening now is actually that the discrepancy between the Sharia government and the Syrian society is being decreasing following the deadline of the March 10 agreement, because there wasn't that much support for a political settlement in Syria to begin with, but it was the Syrian president who wanted to give peaceful negotiations a chance.
Okay, Omer Ozkizilcik, we really appreciate your analysis here. Thank you.